Okay, so in this video, I'm going to show how to create a quiz using your Google Forms. So the first thing is I go to my Gmail account, okay, and I go to my Drive. So if I click on this drop down option in my Drive, you get many options like new folder, upload files, upload folder, Google Docs. I'm going to click on more and then I click on Google Forms. Okay. Now, once I get to Google Form, the first thing I like to do here is go to Untitled Form, and I'm going to just click on that and give it a title. So I'm just going to make a real easy quiz I'm going to create, and that's called US History or something like that. Okay. So just I selected a random title. So your title has been saved. You can also go to the top left, and just click on that, and that's gonna be changed to US history. Okay, so you give it a title here, and then if you click here, you don't even have to click. Sometimes it's automatically changed to the title you just gave here. Okay, so all you have to do is give it a title. And after giving it a title, the first thing I like to do is go to the settings here. Okay, so on the top right, you have settings. I'm just going to click on settings. And the first thing that pops up in setting is a general setting. Now, I always like to collect the email addresses of students, so I'm going to click on that. And also the response receipts, which means I want to know, I really want my students to actually receive a copy of their responses. So I'm going to click on that. Okay, so it's very important that the students who take the quiz also get a copy of their responses. So I'd like to click on response receipts, and then I click on always. Okay, so I want my students to always get a copy of their responses. So I'm going to click on always. Now, if you want your students to get their responses only if they make a request, then you can click on if respondent requests, but I like my students to always get it. Now, requiring sign in, I don't want any sign in, so I'm not going to click on that. I'm not going to restrict, I'm not going to make any kind of restriction, so I don't usually like to select any of this. And then responses can edit after submit, see summary, charts, and text responses. I'm not going to click on any of this. So the only thing in general settings that I am selecting would be collecting email addresses and response receipts, because I want my students to get a copy of the responses always. Okay, so the next thing what I'm going to do is go to presentation. And in presentation, there are a few options. Now, the first one is show progress bar. Now, show progress bar is a good option. You can click on that, especially if your quiz is a long quiz with many questions. So sometimes it's good for the students to have an idea of where they are in the quiz. So a progress bar might be a good idea. Now, the next option here is shuffle question order. I usually don't like to click that because I don't want to shuffle my questions. And then show link to submit another response. No, I don't want that because I don't want to show them a link to submit another response. And I always like to have a confirmation message at the end of quiz. So you can write something like, thank you for taking this quiz, or your responses have been recorded, or something like that. So I'm just going to write, your response has been recorded. Okay, it's good to have some kind of a confirmation message at the end of the quiz. So that's all I do under presentation. The next one is quizzes. Now, this is very important. Okay, so when you go to quizzes, you have to make this a quiz. If you don't make this a quiz, then you will not be able to make a quiz. You will not be able to create a quiz. So it's really important that you go to quizzes and select the option of make this a quiz. And the next is, do you want the grade to be released immediately after submission, or do you want to release the grade later? It really depends on the instructor. I usually like to review the answers before they look at their grade. So I usually click on later after manual review, because I don't want my students to get immediately their scores. Okay, but it's really up to the instructor. If you want your students to get their scores immediately, you can click on immediately after each submission. Now I want my respondents, my students, to see missed quiz, correct quiz, and point value. So I'm going to click on all of these three options. So I have made all my settings and I'm going to click save. Now I'm good to start the quiz. Okay, so I'm going to start with my first question. I'm going to click on untitled question and I'm going to start typing my question. So I'm going to make it very simple. The first president of the US. Okay, I want this to be a multiple choice question. So I'm going to make this multiple choice. So here you have several options. If you click down, you can make it a short answer, paragraph, multiple choice. So I'm just going to click on multiple choice because I want this to be a multiple choice. And something very, very important is make this a required question. I'm going to make all my questions required because I want my students to answer all questions. So which means that if you click required, the students will not be able to submit their quiz unless they answer all questions. So I'm going to make this required, and then I'm going to start writing my options. So the first president of the US, I'm going to select different options. Obama. And the second option I'm going to write is okay, so I'm going to write George Washington, and I'm going to write George Bush, and I'm going to write Trump. All right, so I have all these options here. And then the next thing I would like to do is give it a point value. Okay, so what you do is click on answer key and give it a point value. Now there are different options. You can give it a point value of 1, you can give it a point value of 2, 3. Again, all you have to do is keep increasing the point value. But I'm just going to keep it simple and give it a point value of 1. And next thing I want to do is select the right answer. So George Washington is the right answer. I'm going to click on that and I'm done with the first question. Okay, so that's all. Now, if you want to add another question, so what you do is you click on this plus sign, which is on the right hand side. So I'm going to click that and I'm going to add another question. So the next question I want to add is, again, the capital of the US is, again, my choices would be, I'm just going to go with New York, Washington, D.C., Philadelphia, Chicago. So these are my options. So the next thing I want to do after typing up all the options would be making this question required. So I'm going to make it required and then click on answer key, give it 1 point, assign the point value, and then select the right answer. So Washington, D.C. is the right answer and I'm done. Okay. So I'm done with the question, the choices, and also the answer key and the point value for that question. So I'm done with all. So I'm just going to show one more type of question here, which I'd like to do. And that's going to be, so I'm going to type the question first. Which are the cities located in the East Coast? Okay, so again, very simple question. Now this time, instead of multiple choice, another type of question which I like in my quiz is something called check boxes. I'm going to click on check boxes. Now after this question, I'm going to make in the parenthesis, select all that apply, which means here the students can have to select all the answers that apply. So there's not a single answer, there's more than one choice. That's when you go for check boxes. So I'm gonna write San Jose. I'm gonna write something in the Midwest, Chicago, New York, Philadelphia, Washington, D.C. Okay, so that's enough. So again, what I'm going to do is make this a required question and then click on answer key. I'm going to make it 1 point, and then I'm going to select the 3 main ones in the East Coast as the right answer, and then click done. Okay, so that's it. Okay, you can keep adding questions, and again, there are different options for you. You can make your answer or your question short answer paragraph, but if you want Google Quiz to automatically grade the quiz, then the best option for you would be multiple choice and check boxes. I like both these questions. I like check boxes and multiple choice for those reasons I already mentioned. And so here we go. So I'm done with all the 3 questions. Again, this is a simple quiz with only 3 questions. And next, what I would like to do is I can check if this quiz is really working. Now, for me to check if this quiz is really working, I can go to preview, which looks like an eye here, right? Okay, so that's going to be preview. So I'm going to click on preview. And once you click on preview, what you can do is you can answer these questions. So I'm going to write my email, very important because email is required. So I'm going to type up my email, ramachandra@mediu.mediwood.edu. And I am going to answer all my questions. The first president of the US, George Washington, the capital of US, Washington, D.C., and which are the cities located in East Coast, and I'm going to click New York, Philadelphia, Washington, D.C., and then I'm gonna click submit, and I'm done. So what you do is you close this, and you can look at your quiz here, and here are the questions. Click on responses. I just responded to the question. So what I can do is I can click on responses, and look at this. My score was 3 out of 3. Okay, my score was 3 out of 3. And here you can see my response. Okay, so the first question was George Washington. The first answer was George Washington. I got that right. My next question was the capital of US, and the answer was Washington, D.C., and I got that right. And the cities located in the East Coast, I selected 3, and all 3 were correct. So my quiz is working, which means that I answered them correctly, and Google quiz has given me a correct score, okay, which is a score of 3, which this means that my quiz is working. Always make sure that your quiz is working, okay? So without that, don't send your quiz to the students, okay? That's it. So what I can do is I can go back to the questions, and I am all set to send this quiz to my students. Okay. Now, what's going to happen once you send this to students is they're going to write all the responses and click submit, just like how you did. And you can see all the scores. If you go to responses and click on responses, you can actually see the scores of all your students. So you can, here you see Ramachandra, like if your student's name was something like, I'm going to say Nicole, so Nicole's score is going to be under this. And if there's another student, Emily's score is going to be here. So I'm just giving you some examples. So all the scores, all the email addresses and scores of students are going to be here. And if you click on their names, you can actually see which questions they got correctly and which questions they answered they did not get correct. Okay, so you can actually look at all the questions and see which ones they got correct and which ones they got wrong. Okay, so that's pretty much you can go to responses and see their score and also see how they performed, which ones they got correct and which ones they got wrong. Okay, so I'm going back to my questions and I'm ready to send. So once I'm ready to send, what I can do is I click on send, and you can send it via email. So you have to click the person's email address and then you hit send. What the option I like is you click on this, you actually get a link. Okay, so what you can do is you can copy this link. Okay, so you copy the link and then you can actually paste the link and send it as an email to all students. So this is what I like to do. Instead of emailing every student, I go here, copy the link, and then go to the group email and paste it. So now I can go to my email and paste it, and I'm done. So they get the quiz and they answer all the questions, they hit submit, and what I can do is I'm just going to cancel this because I don't want to send this to anyone. But once they've hit submit, you can go to responses and you can actually see all the names, their email IDs, and the scores they got. And if you click on each name or their email ID, you can actually see how they actually responded to all the questions. So that's all I have to say about creating a Google quiz. Let me know if you have any questions. It's really simple. You can also just play around with it and do different things. And it's a great option. The beauty about this is that it does the scoring automatically. I don't have to touch this, right? Okay, I don't have to sit and grade this. You get the scores immediately, and then I can send the scores to my students. Okay, and and last thing I wanted to say is once you see all the scores, you can, if you now remember, the students don't know their scores yet. Okay, so what you have to do is you have to click on release scores. Okay, once you click on release scores, and all the emails of all the students are going to be here, and then you say send emails and release. If you click that, then you can actually, you're releasing the scores and all students are going to get an email with their scores. Okay, so that's the last thing. Don't forget to release the scores because the students are going to be waiting to hear their scores. And that's about it. Thank you for listening. Let me know if you have any questions or comments. Bye.